So Elon Musk has made quite a few posts supporting the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, Alternative for Germany, which is a far-right political party in Germany that is very, very dominant, particularly in East Germany, the former German Democratic Republic of East Germany under communist rule during the Soviet Union, during the USSR, that was divided from the rest of Germany. They have experienced a period of economic malaise post-reintegration with Germany, despite cash inflows and other types of investment from Berlin that have been unable to make East Germany catch up with the rest of Germany, which has not only led to a depression of wages, has not only led to a bunch of other societal ills, but also just people leaving East Germany for greener pastures, either in Berlin or in, wherever it could be, Bavaria, but outside of East Germany. The loss of population and the aging of the population has led to a surge of Alternative for Deutschland as the people there are looking for some way to get out of this economic malaise, and they're unsatisfied with the status quo. Now, that doesn't mean that Alternative for Deutschland is winning in every single round in East Germany. Recently, they won a first-round vote over there, and then they lost another one in a different area of East Germany, but it's always very close, and they're performing very well over there. The type of agenda that they have, generally speaking, a lot of it has to concentrate on immigration. This right here is like new Germans, make them ourselves, basically. We will produce them, new Germans. And a lot of it is, we don't need more immigrants. We've taken in too much. Taking in the refugees like Merkel did was a mistake. That was a foolish humanitarian endeavor. They're not able to integrate with our societies, within German culture, within German values, within European values. And so what we need to do is stop all of this ridiculous immigration policy and letting in all these people. And we need to instead make the Germans ourselves. We need to produce them locally with German values, with German culture. And if you go to certain members of Alternative for Germany, people who look like Germans, as in, they're white Germans, blue eye, you get the idea. That's not to say all of them are like that, but a lot of them have been found to be like that. There's a number of scandals of people having racist messages or, discriminatory messages. I mean, if you're part of a very anti-immigration movement in Germany or really anywhere, it's not going to be that surprising if for a certain member, even if you're in there for completely economic reasons or cultural reasons, there's going to be people there who are going to be there for some sort of ultra-nationalist racist reasons, and that's no different when it comes to that. Now, that's not to say everybody's like that. People could care about housing costs. There's real reasons you would maybe want either immigration to be slowed or decreased for economic reasons, or even some social cohesion reasons. But a lot of it, when it comes to Alternative for Deutschland, I do not believe comes from a place of economic malaise and wanting to make sure that the jobs have a high enough wage. I think a decent amount of it comes from, out-and-out bigotry. And this has to do, with the behavior of many of its members, many of the scandals that have come out around how they've talked about former SS, different leaders of the AfD and different leadership people on their committees have talked about members of the SS, Nazi Germany historically, and let me put it this way. I think their immigration motivations can be sus. Putting that aside, though, that's the big reason while Elon says he supports them. They have other beliefs as well outside of that, even though that's the big one on immigration. Elon Musk backed them not only on social media, Elon Musk also backed them in an op-ed. This is where he talks a lot about the immigration and social cohesion of Germany. The other big thing that I would point to that I really don't like, the AfD around, and this is probably the biggest reason, is that they are big supporters of ending aid to Ukraine. And not only do they want to end aid to Ukraine, they want to end the sanctions on Russia. They want to restart Nord Stream 2 and basically integrate Germany with Russian energy markets to make Germany more dependent upon Russian energy inflows again. giving Russia that leverage again, while also stopping support for Ukraine, pushing Ukraine into capitulation. And when I say pushing Ukraine into capitulation, to be clear, their co-leadership, like their leadership believes that Ukraine's already lost, that Russia's already won, it's already a set deal. So, throwing Ukraine to the hounds is just kind of it's almost like watching a hawk or like take a baby turtle off the ocean side. It's like you're just kind of letting nature take its course in a way. Now, that's not to say that there isn't just out and out support for the invasion or the Russians and even the violence within the AFD. There is multiple AFD legislators have gone to Russia, across the border into occupied territory, and did tours, propaganda tours with the Russian government, trying to improve the image of the Russian occupation. Multiple AFD politicians also help the Russians election monitor their elections, both in different. I don't remember every region they did it in, but it was within occupied Ukrainian territory. Let me read you the co-leader of the AFD talking about Ukraine. Europe has been forced to implement America's interests. We reject that. NATO is currently not a defensive alliance. A defense community must accept and respect the interests of all European countries, including Russia's interests. If NATO cannot ensure that, Germany must consider to what extent this alliance is still useful for us. So he's suggesting Germany leaving the NATO alliance because it is not conciliatory enough towards Russia's interests. This is the co-leader of Alternative for Deutschland. Mind you, Trump's position is that Europe needs to spend more on its defense spending. It needs to take a bigger priority, a bigger position in the NATO alliance. In most moderated positions supporting Trump in the defense community, it is from a position of, look, I'm not a big fan of what Trump said about withdrawing from NATO, but I think it's all bluff and bluster in order to try to get Germany, in order to try to get France, in order to try to get all of these European powers to spend more on their defense spending so the United States can take more of a back seat in European defense and can concentrate more on the Pacific. Someone like Elbridge Colby, even though this is not the first person I would ever cite, would be someone I would point towards that might say something like this. But this is just counterance to all of that. This is to disentangle Germany from the United States defense alliance system, from the United States defensively, and for it to go completely on its own way. Almost like they're nationalist revanchists. Which, I mean, wouldn't be that surprising. And this is who Elon Musk has come out and declared his support for. Mind you, other German politicians have tried to push Elon away from this. Not only have a bunch of people come out and be like, yo, stop talking about a country you know very little about. Olaf Scholz came out and said, oh, maybe this is because we didn't give you that good business deal, huh? Even though the AFD itself has also been critical about certain Tesla manufacturing facilities in Germany, the leader of the FDP, which is the currently failing liberal, economically liberal, super laissez-faire, we need to be fiscally conservative style, I guess maybe you could say classical liberal, I don't know. The leader of that party, which just broke with the traffic light coalition in Germany, he actually, once Elon Musk came out and started declaring his support for the AFD, he said, Elon, no, please no. I wonder if I can find this. It's actually it's pretty funny. He's like, please no, you don't understand, Elon. Yeah, Christian Lindner, who was the finance minister for the traffic light coalition. Here it is. This is literally the same day when he says he supported AFD, that AFD is the only option to save Germany. The only option, speaking with so much confidence. This is what he said. This I thought was funny. Elon, I've initiated a policy debate inspired by ideas from you and Melee. While migration control is crucial for Germany, the AFD stands against freedom, business, and it's a far-right extremist party. Don't rush to conclusions from afar. Let's meet, and I'll show you what the FDP stands for. Christian Lindner. Just please, Elon, no, please come over. Look, I swear, we want to deregulate everything. We'll deregulate everything. I swear, we swear. I swear, we don't want to spend that much on the poor. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Do you really care about stopping the migrants that much? Come on. Kind of sad, honestly. Honestly, kind of sad. Anyway, this is Elon Musk dipping his toes into an issue, into an election that I don't think he knows much about. And I think one of the better ways to display how little he's knowing about these countries before he comments on their politics is to talk about his recent endorsement of Reform UK. So Elon Musk, it was actually a story for the better part of a month now, was considering financing Reform UK in the same way that Elon Musk financially backed Donald Trump on the campaign trail and helped it financially recover to take on Kamala Harris, as he also picked up their canvassing campaign and a canvassing operation in many of these states. And so after, Donald Trump won, Elon Musk didn't decide like, okay, let me just wait until the next election, or okay, I'm done, I've saved democracy, quote unquote. He then started looking abroad for more options to do this again, and his eyes landed on the British Isles. Specifically Reform UK, which again is the largely anti-migrant far right of British politics, led by Nigel Farage, I don't know what am I supposed to call him? The controversial former leader of UKIP. These were the people who were doing these marketing stunts, saying that if they left if they left the European Union, they'd get all this extra money for healthcare, and it would save them this money, save them that money, and none of it ever panned out. The person who forward charged the country with a media campaign out of the European Union that led to nothing beneficial economically, economic malaise at best, while also not helping them control their border or migration inflows really whatsoever, and not increasing their border control whatsoever, while also, crucially, not dealing with the issue of the British-Irish border, which has its own separate treaties that became its own crisis once Brexit negotiations started. And now the vast majority of Brits, after seeing the migrant inflows not stemmed and not controlled, after seeing the economic benefits that were promised not delivered, and economic malaise in the streets, and a no increase in productivity, after seeing the difficulty when it comes to traveling between the United Kingdom and Europe, which I saw myself when I stopped by just for, look, had a layover in London, and I wanted to go drink. I wanted to go drink while I was flying over to Poland, because I had to, head back to Ukraine, and I was in London for a few hours, and I could have gotten a few more pints down, I think, if it wasn't for those border controls. So I am a victim too, I would imagine. Anyway, the British public now largely oppose leaving the European Union, which was Nigel Farage's, crown jewel of his political endeavors. His crown jewel is something that the British public largely regret, didn't deal with the main issue that he was doing it for in the first place, and has put the United Kingdom in a worse off economic position and more reliant on the United States than ever, which as an American, I don't mind. But if you're somebody who lives on the British Isles, I don't know if you really desire that lack of flexibility. So Elon Musk decides to back them, Reform UK, and Nigel Farage and his 5 MPs, and thinks, I'm going to fund them, I'm going to back them, and he starts to tweet out support for Reform UK, as well as considering funding them. But then the problem is that once he vocalizes that support, and then they start talking about the money, eventually Elon Musk starts to learn a tiny bit more about Reform UK, because again, he started vocalizing support and started talking about giving people money before he knew anything about it. And then he's like, oh, wait a second, Nigel Farage kind of sucks. This is the problem, is that some of these people you might find, oh, look, they have the same reprehensible, some of the same reprehensible beliefs that I do. Hey, these people, you know, they've said some pretty gross things that I kind of like. Or maybe, hey, look, they're at least willing to, you know, fight against the woke left or whatever it is that gets you to believe that you and Nigel Farage are two peas in a pod of the same type allies. Then you actually have to work with them and find out, wow, this guy's a fucking twat. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not a legislator, or maybe he's corrupt. If you had to work, for example, with Viktor Orban legislatively in domestic Hungarian politics, you might not form as favorable of a position of him as you would if you're just somebody looking at him from across the pond thinking, oh my gosh, I hear he loves families. And so Musk is now saying that, never mind, I don't like the Farage right now. I don't think he has what it takes to be Reform UK leader. If Reform UK's wants Elon's support, they're going to have to get rid of Farage. Elon's not only picking and choosing America's presidents with money, financing one, financing the other, he's also now trying to pick the political leadership of foreign political parties. Elon Musk has called for Nigel Farage to be replaced as the leader of Reform UK just weeks after reports the multi-billionaire was in talks to donate to the party. In a post on his social media site X, Musk says Farage doesn't have what it takes to lead the party, but did not explain his reasoning. Farage suggested this was due to a disagreement over Musk's support for the far-right activist Tommy Robinson. Musk has found himself to be to the right of Nigel Farage. Mind you, Tommy Robinson is somebody who's just like, he's actively stirred up lies that caused and helped contribute to violent riots in the UK that burnt down the businesses of immigrants. Like, he's just not a good guy. I'm not a big fan of him. He said Musk's comments was a surprise, but that he would never sell out my principles. The comment from the tech entrepreneur comes hours after Farage described Musk as a friend in an interview with BBC Sunday's Laura Kussenberg. Musk has been a vocal supporter of Farage and his party, posting an X in December that Britain absolutely needs Reform UK. AfD is the only party that can save Germany. Britain absolutely needs this party of 5 people with not much governing experience when it comes to actually leading the country. Look, he just dips his toes in issue after issue after issue and acts bold and on the fringe. And guess what? A lot of things are on the fringe because they're fucking stupid, okay? Okay, just because you come in, you can't just go in everywhere and say, ooh, I'm against the status quo. What's the most crazy right-wing party that's against the status quo here? You can't just keep doing that over and over again and not expecting to fall on your face like this. It's like, oh, actually, this guy's a twat. This is not smart. I don't like this at all. And the thing is, it's not even for reasons that would be reasonable. Like, oh, maybe it has to do with, you know, some quid pro quo that Nigel Farage would engage in, or some strong lack of leadership skills. No, it's because he didn't stick his neck out for Tommy Robinson. Anyway, moving over to Nigel Farage a little bit longer, I did want to see Nigel Farage's response on the radio program to being dumped by right-wing oligarch Elon Musk.
The politician who's making all the news is Mr. Farage, sitting opposite me now in the studio. I'll start by wishing you a Happy New Year,
Happy New Year.
Thank you for coming by. One question from me before we go to the first questioner. Neil, stay exactly where you are. We all know about the dispute that's been going on between you and Elon Musk. What would Donald Trump say?
Oh, I've been a friend of Donald Trump's for a decade. I've been very supportive of him. He's been very supportive of me. I can't see that changing for a moment. And interestingly, despite what Elon said when he woke up the other morning, you know, that I was no good or whatever. I mean I'm sure he's
not the man to lead the party.
He's not alone with that opinion, clearly. But, you know, and then yesterday, he retweeted me twice with positive messages. So I don't know.
You catching up with him later this month?
Yes.
How long are you going over for the inauguration?
I'll be over for a good sort of 4 or 5 days. And of course, look, I have no desire.
To be clear, Nigel Farage is going to be in the inauguration. Zelensky isn't. They said Zelensky could come, but he wasn't invited. If Nigel Farage is getting invited, and the man fighting the largest war in Europe since World War II isn't being invited, again, Nigel Farage has one crowning accomplishment. He led his country in the worst geopolitical decision in the last 5 decades. So, I don't know. Doesn't seem really fair to me. But whatever. What do I know?
to go to war with Elon Musk, and I'm not going to, and I haven't done. I'm a huge admirer of him. I think he's a heroic figure. I think the sort of tech changes that he's bringing to the world are incredible. I think buying Twitter actually has brought a lot of free speech back, even if some people don't like what's being said. Well, you know what? Tough. And there is no way I'm going to fall out. But equally, Nick, I wasn't going to be moved. This Tommy Robinson character, who some see as a hero. And all right, he's talked about grooming gangs and other things, although he's hardly been on his own on that, has he? I mean, I was first being condemned in 2012 for daring to talk about it.
Anne Cryer was talking in 2002.
Yeah, no, she was. I mean, she is the
20+ years.
She's the heroine of all of this.
Yeah.
As indeed, to be fair, Andrew Norfolk, who was
the
writing for the Times.
journalist.
Sue Reed on the Mail. There were some very brave figures early on. But when figures like myself as party leaders dared pop their head over the parapet, we were smashed back down very, very quickly. Robinson's talked about this, but he has a criminal record, a list as long as your arm. Violence against women. I could go on, Nick. Right. And all I'm saying is, look, Mr. Robinson, do what the hell you like. We are totally separate from that. And I never wanted, and you know this, you've known me long enough to know, I've never wanted my parties to have anything to do with the BNP or extremism, and I never will.
Why have they attracted people then, Mr. Farage? Because in the past...
I like that he appeals to this guy, like, that I've never wanted to be associated with the extremists. So why do they love you so much? Oh, God, you don't appeal to a guy who immediately is going to pull the bridge from out under you. You don't appeal to a guy to hold the rope bridge who's going to grab it and go, yee. That's not smart, man.
They have attracted that like.
Well, not when I've led parties, no. What I inherited...
I take you back to the last general election. Possibly you didn't have enough time.
No. I had no say over that whatsoever. I came in right at the last minute. There were people there that shouldn't have been there.
But so there was a scandal, for those of you who don't know, because you might not be paying attention to Reform UK politics, or Reform UK scandals. Basically, Reform UK got a lot of people, because it was a brand new political party, Nigel Farage is leading it, and it's like the far right of the Conservatives. And I'm saying the far right because it's just, it's just of them, the right wing of that, which on the general spectrum would be the far right of the country, okay? That's where my description of it comes from. If you don't like it, suck it. I don't care. So they open up, to have people run across the country in Reform UK as Reform UK candidates. And so a bunch of people filed to run as Reform UK candidates all across the country, and they just start, they accept them, they start, running them as candidates in areas. And a lot of these people probably were one of very few that filed, and a lot of people who were just not upstanding people, hard misogynist, racist. You can imagine the type of social media backgrounds of the worst degenerates in a comment section. That's the type of stuff that was being dug up about these people. And then Nigel Farage is the answer, why are you guys running a bunch of candidates that are horribly racist, sexist? It's because they didn't filter them through like other parties might before they actually nominate somebody for these areas. And it might have probably also, now this is my hunch, not have been a priority for them because, how much do they really care about sexism and racism when it comes to the base that they're trying to appeal to? But either way, whichever perspective you have, they ran a bunch of naughty people.
That will never happen again.
All right, let's go to the calls. The first call does reflect Elon Musk. It's Neil in Nottingham. Neil, you're on the radio. Your question to Nigel Farage.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigel.
Good morning.
By the way, I love... I've been on the LBC before. I was only on once to talk about Ukraine. It's the only British radio program I listen to on occasion. And I like the callers. They really try.
Serious question here. I understand what you say about Elon Musk and the relationship, but how much weaker do you think reform will be in practice without the support of Elon Musk?
Do you mean financially, Neil, just to clarify?
You know how weird this is? An American oligarch. We have foreigners calling into British TV to discuss how much weaker or more powerful their political parties can be based upon our oligarchs backing one guy or the other guy. And again, I'm not saying that this is a brand new phenomenon, but I am saying this is the richest man in the world, and he stuck his neck out far, and he is sticking it out. He's keeping it stiff. He's keeping it stiff for the right of the world now. He's not just going to keep it in the United States. Elon Musk is an everyone problem, okay? He came from South America, yeah, Guatemala and Elon. Elon Musk came from South Africa to us. He's our problem for a bit. Now he's everybody's problem. And, I mean, I don't think he's going to pull back anytime soon. He's not giving any indication of it. If anything, he's only leaning into it harder. And so now everybody really has to think about, like, okay, so which side of our political aisle is he going to throw his support behind? And can we counter it this way, that way? Oh, gosh. The age of Elon's global reach, political reach has begun.
No, I not financially. I don't think that's the core of the issue. I mean, in terms of reform's popularity and I guess its increasing support.
Let's put that to Mr. Farage.
Okay, well, look, Neil, I think that Elon isn't just a hero figure to people who are aging, such as myself.
Oh, my God.
I think to that.
Oh, my God, a hero figure. Glaze. Dude, Elon's like, you need to be removed. And he responds, isn't he a hero? He wants that good from Elon. Bad, man.
Looking at Nick too. I think to a younger generation, he really is a cult hero figure. I mean, I've had kids telling me, you know what, he's going to let us go to Mars. So
a space-age John Brown, if you will.
Not having Elon's support would damage us with that younger generation because he kind of makes us look cool. So I'm being frank about that. And I am confident that whatever has been said, we can mend.
You can build bridges with Elon Musk.
I really think we can. I really think we can. He said what he said.
Of course he wants that support. He's the richest man on the planet, and he's a fringe party that can be normalized by having such a mainstream-ish appearing, just by being the most powerful, the most richest man in the world. You're going to come with a certain amount of normalization by having that much capital behind you. It brings them financial help. It brings them PR. It could help normalize them. I mean, of course he wants Elon's help. Of course the AFD wants it. That's why the AFD is going to be doing a Twitter Live, an X Live space with Elon to help promote them in the near future. I don't know how soon, but they've already announced it.
How crucial is it that you do, Mr. Farage?
It's not crucial. I mean, look, if I was to embrace, as it looks like I was being urged to do, the sort of violent, thuggish people like Robinson, that would do our party immense harm. And probably rightly so, actually. So the fact that I've stood up on a point of principle.
On the other hand, if Elon Musk, with a lack of knowledge, goes into all these parties, just switches around their leadership willy-nilly with no sense of, like, who's competent in leading, and you're just like, oh, this YouTuber really agrees with me ideologically, I'm going to make him the new leader of Reform UK, Sargon of Akkad, lead the party forward, and then they immediately sink it. Maybe he'll be a bane for the international far right. We'll see. But if it just stays in the financial realm, and he doesn't get this meddly with the leadership as he's trying to do now, who knows? It's hard to say.
John Brown Enthusiast has donated $5. You best take them words back.
Thank you for the $5. But I will not.
Even if in the short term it's to my detriment, Neil, in the long run, may even work in our favour. And look, of course, I want his support. Of course, I will talk to him.
My BF's shotgun, meant as a joke. As a straight man, is it okay that I'm jealous of DylanBurnsTV's hair? Why are you saying that meant as a joke? Meant as a joke. And that's what I'm going to do going forward. Meant in my debates. Meant as a joke, you're stupid. Meant as a joke, fuck you. Meant as a joke, you're a silly Billy. Going forward, that's the official rule. You have to introduce all your jokes as meant as a joke for the safety of the public.
To my detriment, Neil, in the long run, may even work in our favour. And look, of course, I want his support. Of course, I will talk to him in America in a few days' time. Of course, I want to mend, any broken fences that might exist. I'm sure we can do it.
How crucial could Donald Trump be in mending the fences? Is he a fence mender?
Trump is a much more conciliatory character than people give him credit for.
Oh my gosh, the Donald Trump Farage Elon summit to help the right take back the UK. I can see it now.
is the guy who gave us the Abraham Accords in the Middle East. This is the guy that crossed the line into North Korea, a very brave thing for a US president to do.
Jimmy Carter did that actually first, by the way. Just gonna throw that out there. But what did that achieve?
Trump is a great conciliator. And look, there's one other thing, Neil, I must say, and that is many of my American friends have seen one side of the Robinson story.
Thank God the Abraham Accords went through. As we can see, the Middle East is very peaceful now. Sorry, man, I just can't.
You know, he says he's in prison for exposing the grooming gangs, and they go, oh my goodness me, this is dreadful. He's a political prisoner. Fact is, he's been in prison many times over the years, 3 times for contempt of court. I mean, once he almost brought down a trial
yes.
at which gang rapists
Yes.
were ultimately convicted.
It's important to remember that.
So I am actually on a campaign right now in America just to educate people as to who Tommy Robinson actually is.
Neil, thank you for your call.
I mean, think how repulsive you have to be for Nigel Farage to be like, yours, get away from me. Think about how repulsive you have to be. And that's the thing that Elon Musk thought was too much of a dividing issue, that he could just go to a country that he's just like starting to learn the bare bones of their politics about, and the party he just barely endorsed less than a month ago. His shirt hasn't even been shipped yet, with the Reform UK logo on it for him to wear around the block. He doesn't even have his membership card yet, and he is out there trying to choose the new leader based on this.
Sophie is in Manchester. You're through to Nigel Farage. Sophie, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
So
this is just a quick one. It's kind of around the topic that you're speaking about anyway. So considering, Nigel Farage, that you've spoken yourself about being attacked online and feeling unsafe, do you plan to condemn Elon Musk in any way about his comments attacking Labour's Jess Phillips?
If he was inciting violence, then that would be going beyond the line at which free speech is acceptable. Now,
using language such as rape, genocide, apologist, the ice is pretty thin, Nigel Farage.
It's very, very strong language, and it offends many. But then free speech.
Let me read it, because I heard something vaguely about this, but I didn't read anything. Like, I read a headline, so I don't want to just speak. No knowledge. I'm reading this from the reliable British outlet GBN News. Okay, so this is certainly Nigel Farage approved. Speaking to BBC News site, the Home Office Minister said her life had been put... Elon branded her a rape genocide apologist. What was this in reference to? Okay, let me read it. Okay. British politicians have rebuked Elon Musk after the tech billionaire called the safeguarding minister Jess Phillips a rape genocide apologist who deserves to be in prison over her response to a 2013 scandal in Yorkshire in which 1,400 underage girls had been groomed and trafficked for sex between 1997 to 2013. A rape genocide apologist. Okay, look, if you think she's weak on crime, say that she's weak on crime and she's weak on this, weak on that. Genocide? What does it have to do with genocide? Is this the type of like, oh my gosh, see this person who did the crime is brown. The person who was received the crime is white, even though I would imagine not all 1,400 underage girls here would all be white girls. Especially when a lot of these end up being, girls from socially underprivileged communities, which also tend to be a lot of minorities. But what does it have to do with genocide? It's just like pointless hyperbole. This is the type of stuff that makes the word worthless. Like when people remember, the talk of like, oh, you use racist and you're just gonna destroy the word because you use it so willy-nilly. And he's like, oh, you were weak in response to sexual crime? Genocide. What? Like, I don't even know anything about it. She could be 100% in the wrong, but you're just like going so over the top that I immediately don't believe you. My goodness. And so it seems okay. So this comes from a decision from her to reject a request for the government to lead a public inquiry into the scandal. So basically, and then she said the local council should investigate it. Okay, so that's the thing that made her a genocide apologist, is because she said, I'm going to reject this inquiry into the scandal and say the local council should investigate it. That is, okay. See, it's just completely unserious. You could say that's just passing the buck on responsibility, and oh, she doesn't want a scandal on her hands. These are all things that you'd be like, yeah, these sounds like things politicians would do, but you just hit it out with like fairy tale bullshit. Like, what am I supposed to? You're completely unserious. And this is the person who is just dipping his toes in the British politics. Someone who's immediately just gonna like go all guns blazing with no sense of the words he's using.
Should be able to offend many. And Sophie, I do not believe...
So it's okay to...
Like a monkey with a machine gun, man. He has so much money.
Cause offence, to knowingly cause offence.
Of course. That's what free speech... Nick, that is what free speech is. We should be allowed. You should be allowed. I should be allowed to say things that others find offensive. The presenter on after you says many things that people find offensive. Right. But hey, I wouldn't... I might not like what he says, but I wouldn't want him shut down.
Right. But when you meet with Mr. Musk, what would you say, to pick up on Sophie's point, using language such as rape, genocide, apologists for just... You don't concur with that, do you?
I don't concur with it, although what I will say is the extent of the cover-up over the mass rape scandal that we now learn has affected 50 different towns in this country, not the 6 that the so-called inquiry was looking at. Incidentally, Rotherham mentioned only once in the whole of that inquiry.
485 pages.
So, Sophie, I would say this to you. Nearly all of my friends in America have seen these reports, read some of the transcripts from court online over the course of the Christmas-New Year period. They are horrified. They cannot believe this has happened in the United Kingdom, and that perhaps explains some of the strong language. You may find it offensive. I don't think it goes beyond the line.
All right. Sophie, thank you. You've mentioned Tommy Robinson a couple of times, Mr. Farage. Are Robinson supporters welcome in Reform UK?
Sorry, I was just going to watch a few minutes of this, but every time I turn on the LBC and they have these types of interviews with politicians, I like to watch them through because I really do think... I think they do these interviews well. I think they choose the callers well.
Well, people who sympathise with the fact that he wants to fight against grooming gangs, yes. But if you genuinely think that this guy is a hero figure in every way, given his record, given some of the things, not just that he's said that he's done, then maybe we're not quite right for you. I understand a lot of people sympathise. Nick, a lot of people sympathise with what he's had to say about what's going on in British towns and cities. And he's grown up himself in Luton, where there have been a lot of community problems. So I understand that. Sympathy, yes. But if you're an outright guy thinking this should be the next Prime Minister, then clearly Reform's not for you.
How concerned are you that those people might join Reform, though? Because you mentioned in the past people have been attracted to parties in which you've been involved with views you say you oppose.
Can I be very clear?
I hope you would.
The last time Tommy Robinson stood for elected office, he got 2.2%. All right? I'm leading a party. We've got ambitions to upset the apple cart in British politics in a way that's not been seen for over 100 years.
Upset the apple cart.
Him and his close advocates can do what the hell they like. We're going to do what we do without them.
Graham's in Bushy. Graham, you're through to Nigel Farage. Go ahead.
Morning, both of you.
Morning.
Nigel, with the number of people joining Reform, what checks are being made to establish that they haven't been members of the BNP, British First, or other far-right organisations, or haven't made any racist comments on any social media platforms?
Well, you could apply that same principle to the Labour and Conservative parties. It's just that no one's actually joining them, I suppose, at the moment. We ask people, we make perfectly clear to people that if they have those past associations, they are not welcome.
How do you make that plain?
Well, it's there on our website. It's very, very clear. We don't want
you
people...
say we don't want you if you've been in the BNP.
Absolutely. And by the way...
Do you hate immigrants? No matter how stinky. No. How bad? I'm sorry. I got to read the fill-out form for I'm Not a Racist, Reform UK. But this is not a thing. Like, I don't... Like, checking people's social media history before they join your party. I don't know about that. But then again, like, parties are a little different, right, in the UK than they are in the United States. We only have, like, 2 parties, and so there's so many people that join. Whereas I think people who join the party and get involved in party politics is different than just the everyday average person who votes different ways. So I think they're more talking about like rank and file, staffers and people who, manage party campaigns and, getting involved in running, etc. And yeah, I think that's fair enough considering, their reputation.
I've been saying, I said that in UKIP as well. I've been saying that all my
But they did get
career.
through.
What do these guys want to reform? They want to do Brexit too. They gotta leave the European Union again.
All at the last general election, you and I had a couple of exchanges.
Because I wasn't leader then. All right, I wasn't leader then, and if I'd known about any of them, they wouldn't have stood. Let's be clear. Reform was a very, very small start-up party. It didn't have the resource. So, Graham, the answer is we do have to rely, to a certain extent, on people's honesty. And will one or two people lie to us? I expect they will. But all I can tell you is, having sampled just in the street some of those who've joined us recently, they're a good bunch of people. And you know what? They're really, really concerned about the direction our country's going in. Economic and societal decline. They don't believe the current political class on the two front benches can turn this around, and they're optimistic that we can.
I want to move on, but we just need to come back briefly, if we could, to the scandal of grooming gangs. The Prime Minister seeming to say that any politician, or indeed
1 second, I just got the statement from Nigel Farage that I think contradicts
anyone who
a lot of what he's been saying here, that I think we should listen to.
Happy Pog Day to my favourite Valorant gamers. A reminder, show the sus simps and incels among us how to date girls and not be big cringe imposter chungus. She made beans, she do be eating them though. Sheesh. Hi Harv, you're turning 18 and many happy returns of the day. Well, you're a grown-up now. You're able to vote. You can vote UKIP. You can vote Reform. You can vote for the Labour Party if you want to. I mean, hey, it's a free country. It's entirely up to you. I tell you what, though, Harv, it's a much freer country. Now we're outside the European Union and proud and free, and that's fantastic. So birthday wishes come from your friends Nick and Kerr and from Uncle Peter. And Harv, they come from me too. Have a great birthday. It's going to be your birthday very, very soon, and I'm to tell you to use your Swaz Techers against Pat Keys and delivering a Brexit boot if needs be, and to play Mo Lester in pro clubs. And this comes with kind regards from Liam. Ben, I hope you have a really fantastic birthday. This is for Catherine, and it's booked by Big Chungus. I know that Bussy be so talented. It's doing cartwheels, but I don't care.
Doing
Update for the group. Crisis in Plotland. Ramona Big Chungus has launched a military coup, and only you can stop it. Sign up to NordVPN and use the code Among Us to beat the totally sus Chungus and save Plotland.
A lot of Big Chungus
Pog
ones.
Day. And I've got to tell you that Big Chungus sends his regards. Attention, all sussy gamers. Tuesday
so
is dropping
this.
a Dutty track.
Why is
and
it
I've got
so
to tell
much?
you, it's going to be better than Brexit. Make sure
This is
to
not
stream
AI.
it all
No,
to
no,
your
no. Somebody said this is not AI. This is AI. This is not AI. This is real. This is him. This is him recording these and releasing these for pay.
crewmates so we can find out who the imposter is. And Big Chungus is out. And he wants to say, Wag Wan Ozian my Neek, happy birthday Poggies.
Okay, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. Anyway, moving away from Nigel Farage, back to Elon Musk's influence on British politics. One last thing I wanted to throw out there. Elon Musk, this dedicated pro-democracy advocate who is putting this money in there because he values American democracy. He wants to protect freedom. He wants to fight for it. He wants to defend it. He wants to, make sure that our elections are upheld and that they're legitimate. Well, he's pushing for the British King Charles, to dissolve parliament. And I actually went out there and I found out, I just was trying to figure out how many times he did this. He's done this 23 or 24 times. He's called for the British Parliament to be dissolved 23 or 24 times. And he's asking for a unelected king who got his position, got his power from birth through a familial line, who got it for no other reason than he was born in the right family. He wants him to decide to dissolve the democratically elected parliament from an election that was less than a year ago. Now, look, he'll try to justify it and say, look at the approval rating. He'll say that Keir Starmer, Keir Starmer was elected because the Conservatives were unpopular and they were sick after all the mismanagement of Brexit, the mismanagement of a pandemic response, the economic malaise, and, the not dealing with the issue of migration, dealing with it well and making promises they didn't keep. And so now that, Labor's in there and they're not able to solve all the issues, now they're dealing with a fall in popularity and they're crashing right now. I think Keir Starmer's at like 22 or 23% popularity, really, really low. So the argumentation is, well, they're unpopular. I don't care if they're unpopular. That's not how democracy works. If that's how democracy works, we just look at polling numbers to decide whether or not somebody is president or not, and we don't even have elections. But that'd be ridiculous. So I just need to wait until Donald Trump has a particularly low approval rating, and we can just say, okay, he's gone. We got to kick him out now. It's ridiculous. You need one continuance of government. You had an official election. People made the best arguments they could around that election. They funded to get their message out to the people. People took the time to wit and go and vote. And now you just screw that. I don't care. The party right now is unpopular. A year into it. So I think the unelected king should overthrow democracy. And look, he means it. He means it. You can't say this is just like Elon Musk, stumbling into a silly position and then kind of going away from it. Somebody says something silly, they realize it's silly, and then they don't say it again because it's they don't want to bring attention to it. You see stuff like that. Someone will delete a tweet after posting it, then never talk about it again because it's I was wrong, huh? He's done this 23 times at least. Maybe more. I could only find 23. 23 times he urged King Charles III to overthrow and destroy the current parliament. He did this. This is not a person dedicated to democracy. This is a person just learning about British politics, endorsing a party, then unendorsing a party because the person who's in charge of that party would not back Tommy Robinson, and now is calling for the government just to be overthrown. He just dipped his toes in, and he's calling for coups. He's calling for the support of the far right before then trying to manipulate the political leadership of the far right while offering big money. This is a kid in a candy store playing games with countries' real political systems. Now, this is a developed democracy. Well, this will not play. King Charles III is not going to do this with Parliament. But imagine Elon Musk. This is the stuff that scares me. He doesn't do this in a developed democracy. He goes to somewhere like, the Central African Republic or Mali or somewhere that doesn't have a terribly developed civil society or isn't even a democracy to begin with, like, for example, Mali now or the Central African Republic. And then he just tells them the same thing. Dissolve Parliament, do this with this resource deal. We need this resource for our Tesla. We need this for our company. Now, when it's with, a developed democracy and he's just kind of shooting the shit on Twitter, it is what it is. But if he texts some general in some country with a much less developed civil society thinks that he has the backing of the richest man in the world, he might do something wild. I'm just, like, being the richest man in the world comes with influence, comes with power. And he meant it. He said it 23 times, man. 23 times. Let's just hope he keeps this concentration on these countries' domestic politics within nations that have developed civil societies and institutions that can guard against this type of blatant oligarchic control. It's crazy, man. Crazy, crazy. What else we got today? Elon's dad named him after a ruler of Mars called the Elon in a book of the Mars Project by Werner von Braun.